Welcome back to our journey through Fastenal history. We have to cover a lot of ground in a short amount of time, so fasten your seatbelts and let's go. First stop, products. For many years, Fastenal basically sold nuts, bolts, and screws. Fasteners weren't just part of our name, they were the focus of our tagline, First in Fasteners. But then we had a bright idea. Everyone who buys a fastener needs to apply it with some kind of tool. So why not sell tools to our customer base? And so began
The Brief but Fascinating Life of the Fast Tool Stores, presented by Fastenal.
We figured we could potentially double our store count in one fell swoop by selling tools and fasteners in separate, adjacent locations. One a traditional Fastenal store and the other a fast tool store. The vision was that if we did it right, we might eventually end up with an entire industrial mini mall with 5 or 6 stores in a row, each selling a different product concept. But it didn't take long for customers to tell us that they didn't like going through 2 different doors and getting 2 different invoices. So we combined all the product into our regular Fastenal stores. And with that, we end our tale of
The Brief but Fascinating Life of the Fast Tool Stores.
The story has a happy ending because we discovered that putting tools in our stores basically doubled our sales opportunity in each location. The flip side was that we were able to open stores in towns half the size. Our market opportunity multiplied when we rolled out additional product concepts like SharpCut, PowerFlow, EquipRite, CleanChoice, PowerPhase, all of which were introduced in the mid-1990s. Each of these concepts had its own logo, its own tagline, and its own catalog, which made things a little confusing for our customers. So in 1998, we decided to recast them as product categories and to market everything under the Fastenal brand in an all-inclusive catalog. The transformation was completed when our First in Fasteners tagline was replaced with a new phrase that summed up everything Fastenal offered: industrial and construction supplies. Now let's shift gears and move on to distribution. In the early years, our operations were about as basic as you can get. A store would call in an order to Winona, then John Newell would jot it down on a scrap of paper and stick it on a screw that had been drilled through a 2x4. Later in the week, we'd yank the notes off the screw, pull the orders, and then the store managers would have to drive to Winona to pick up their product. It wasn't until the mid-1970s that our stores began receiving sporadic deliveries, and it wasn't until 1981 that we hired our first full-time driver, Bob Wittenberg, who just happens to be standing by to extol the virtues of our original trucks.
Well, when I started with the company in 1981, we had 2 straight trucks, one of which was a General Motors 1-ton flatbed truck dubbed the White Knight that I was told it was a repossession that we acquired from one of the local banks. It chronically broke down. Almost every time we would take it out on the road, it would develop a problem of one sort or another. I can even remember hauling parts to Appleton, Wisconsin one time to have the truck repaired while I was driving a rental. The first tractor trailer we got was in the fall of 1982, and that also was a Mercedes-Benz. We had a Mercedes-Benz straight truck. That was 180 horsepower, 12-speed transmission. That truck did not have a sleeper on it, so on the nights that I spent away from home, one of the options was to use the sheet of plywood that I had covered with rubber back carpeting, stretch that out across the seats in the cab, and sleep on that.
For the first 20 years, Winona was the company's only distribution center. But eventually, we couldn't reach all of our stores that were opening up to the east and south. So in 1987, we opened a second hub in Indianapolis with 1 truck and 1 guy running the warehouse. For our next hub opening, we traveled to a distant and exotic land, Scranton, Pennsylvania. Then to Dallas, Atlanta, and eventually all over the country and beyond, shifting over time from a Winona-centric model to a truly regionalized system. Of course, the heart of our distribution system, and really our entire company, is our stores. For years, we stuck to a simple plan of growing our store count by 30% each year. The only reason this formula worked was because we had talented people in the field making it happen. It was their ability to practice frugality that enabled us to run all these local businesses profitably, something our competition never figured out how to do. And it was their innovation and commitment to customer service that really drove the company forward. That energy led us in all kinds of new directions. In 1995, we opened our first store in Canada. In 2000, we started doing business in Mexico. A year later, we opened up in Singapore. And we've since opened store locations all over the world, providing local service to our customers as they globalized their operations. Meanwhile, we continued to get closer and closer to our customers here in the U.S. In the 1980s, we started offering our first job site trailers. And in 1992, we opened our first on-site store within a customer facility, Fisher Hamilton in Two Rivers, Wisconsin. Well, it took us more than 40 years, but when we finally got into vending in 2008, we ran faster and farther than I could have ever imagined back in 1967.
That's right, Bob. Within 6 years, we'd have more than 50,000 machines installed at customer sites, making us far and away the largest industrial vending company in the world.
In summary, the first 50 years of Fastenal have been energizing and productive, all of which has depended upon the performance of the people that make up Fastenal. And as we look forward to the next 50 years, the same principles that made us successful in the first 50 years will apply to the second 50. You folks are going to be the leaders of the next 50 years. And any good leader will practice just two things. The first is you have to make sure that everybody that joins our organization is pursuing our common goal of growth through customer service. And the second obligation for you as leaders is to find ways to bring out and use the potential of everybody that joins our organization. Success comes from our people, and our people have to be motivated, have to have the tools to do good things, and more importantly, have to have the ability to make decisions every day. Keep that up, and Fastenal will be as successful in the next 50 years as it was in the first 50. Thank you.